Host Elisa Bielatich Davis. We get together on Sunday nights to meet everyday Orthodox Christians. We're hoping to get to know the members of the body of Christ across all of our various jurisdictions and regions. We may worship in various languages or even on different calendars, but we have so much in common. Come get to know someone new and see how they're living out this Orthodox faith in another corner of the world. After all, every person is an icon of Christ, and as we'll see, every person has a story to tell. If you have a question for tonight's guest, we invite you to call in and join the conversation at 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-AF-RADIO. Now, here's Elisa.
Christ is risen. It is May 21st, 2023, and we are live on Ancient Faith Radio. I'm Elisa Bielatich Davis, and you are listening to Everyday Orthodox. You know, we get together here on Sunday nights to meet a new everyday Orthodox Christian every week, and it's just wonderful. We're getting to sort of build up our Orthodox community through conversation. And, you know, in North America, Orthodoxy sometimes feels a little fragmented because rather than have one national church, we're divided up into different jurisdictions and different languages, even different calendars. But, you know, I think when we pray for unity all the time, we pray for the unity of the faith. And maybe that doesn't necessarily just mean administration, right? Maybe that means that we get to know one another and we come to love one another as brothers and sisters in Christ. So that's what we're doing. We're right here just getting to know Orthodox people from different jurisdictions, different walks of life, different parts of the country, so that we can all sort of appreciate one another. And, you know, I find that Orthodox people have really interesting stories all the time. We have the most fascinating people in Orthodoxy. And I think partly that's because there are a lot of immigrants. So we have a lot of different cultures. We have people who grew up in very colorful immigrant families. And then, of course, we have a lot of converts. And, you know, we converts, we come from all different places and all different backgrounds. So it's a lot of fun. Now, keep in mind that you are always welcome to join the conversation. The number is 1-855-AF-RADIO. That's 1-855-237-2346. And Matushka Trudy Richter is right here. She is engineering the program. Well, she's not right here. I'm in Texas, and she's in Chesterton, Indiana. But she's engineering the program in Chesterton at the studio. And she'll take your call, and she'll patch you right through to speak to our guest if you like. So keep in mind also that you can find us on the Ancient Faith website, streaming live. We're on Ancient Faith Ministries Facebook page and YouTube page live. We're also, of course, live on the app all the time. And on the website and app and YouTube, you can actually find old episodes archived. So if you miss us, just go back and find us. All right. Now, without any further ado, I have to tell you about tonight's guest because I'm actually really excited. I actually thought she had been on the show before, and I realized she hasn't. And I don't know how I had, you know, such an oversight as not to invite her on the show before because she's wonderful. Tonight, we're going to be talking to Jane Meyer. Jane G. Meyer, you may see on the cover of the children's books in your Orthodox library because Jane has written several really amazing and beautiful children's books. She also edits the children's books, the entire children's book line at Ancient Faith Publishing. And I'll tell you why Jane is so good at children's books, because Jane is truly a child at heart. Like, she is just delightful and fun, and she just has such a playful and beautiful spirit, but of course also coupled with being deeply spiritual and also being just really, I guess, very organized because she's able to edit all of these books and to accomplish so much. She's in Santa Barbara, California. She has a child. She tends fruit trees. She, in one of her bios, it says she's learning to weave baskets from pine needles. She likes to fiddle with bread baking. She hopes to travel to Finland. She visits the beach at least once a week, every week. She loves church. And also, I can tell you she's really good at cartwheels, which always impresses me because some of us hit a certain age and we can't do cartwheels anymore. So I'm super impressed with people who can do them. But at any rate, and you know what else she's doing? This is why I say she must be very organized, because Jane really has a lot on her plate, and she does it all so beautifully. She's added another huge job, which is she is doing the Ancient Faith Kids channel on YouTube. So she coordinates that, and she finds all the content, and she puts it all together, and it's been wonderful. So now, without any further ado, let's welcome Jane to the program. Hi, Jane. Welcome.
Yay! Hi, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here with you. It's so good to hear your voice. It's been a long time since we've seen each other. Yeah.
It really has. It really has. We don't get to see each other nearly enough. My daughter almost went to college at UC Santa Barbara, and I was like, oh, I'll get to go.
I would have loved that.
But so actually, have you always lived in California? Where did you grow up?
I did grow up in Santa Monica, which is a little bit south of Santa Barbara, about a couple hours. It's sort of the beach side of LA. And was just there till I was 18, and then off to college and got married, and came back to California in the year 2000. And so we have been, our oldest children were fairly young. They were 5 and 3 when we moved back. And so we pretty much raised them here, and we're still here. And all of my family who was in Santa Monica, they're all now up here in Santa Barbara. So we all reunited a little bit north. So that's been a lot of fun. And actually, Sunday night is when our whole family gets together at my parents' house and has a big Sunday night dinner. So my husband just went over there while I'm here in my office, my garage office, chatting with you. So yeah.
That's great. Well, and it's only 4:00 in California, so you'll still make dinner, hopefully.
Tis true. Although I'm allergic to my parents' house for 6 weeks out of the year, and we're right in the allergy season, so I avoid them. Even though I love them and miss them, but I don't go to their house.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
Well, so when you were growing up, what were you like? Like, I mean, I'm not surprised you grew up on the beach, because I just think beach people are a little bit more fun, and you're like, this makes sense. That in Santa Monica, right? There's like the boardwalk. What is it called? The pier or the boardwalk? But it's awesome.
The pier. Yeah. It really was a very. It was sort of a two-sided. Well, like most places are. Really interesting, fun time growing up in Santa Monica. Like you said, very beachside town. Super casual and fun. We all had our skateboards, and a lot of us surfed. We were outside every day playing games in the street. We had like 30 kids on our block, and cars wouldn't even drive up and down it because we were so naughty. And just a really fun childhood full of just experiences outside. And yeah, just a lot of play. But then there was also Santa Monica at the time when I was growing up. So I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. And it also was a moment when a lot of money was coming into the town. A lot of, actors and directors and things like that were moving in and changing sort of the shape of the area. And my parents had grown up there, and my grandparents also had grown up there. So we had lots and lots of stories of what it was like, right? What it was like 20 years ago or 50 years ago. And so there was a real infusion of money, which made for it was sort of the Wild West when I was growing up a little bit. There were a lot of drugs. There's just a lot of promiscuity, just there was this really lovely, like organic, everyday, beautiful side of being there. And then there was also this influx of money and stardom and fame and all of that. And so we kind of found a way to, sort of dodge and weave around some of that. And for me, that was through my church community, and being an athlete too. So I grew up as a gymnast and really started competing when I was fairly young. And so I kind of had a job when I was little, and that was it was the best because I had an excuse to sort of avoid a lot of the stuff was there. I could always blame everything on my coach. I could say, no, I can't, I can't do that because we have to keep our bodies healthy. And even though it was my faith that was sort of the underlying thing, it was nice to have an excuse. So because, people didn't think that if I would say that I didn't want to do it because I was a Christian, and, there was a lot of already shaming at that time. And so, yeah, just super weird, but awesome at the same time. And, a really, really unique and interesting sort of many years until I was 18, and then I was off.
Yeah, it's a lot more socially acceptable to be, abstinent from drinking and drugs and all the wildness because you're an athlete. You've got to keep, because it's logical. You got to keep your body clean, right? Nobody wants to hear. I grew up at the same time in California, and it had the same sort of experience that if you were saying, "Oh, for Jesus," they'd be like, "Oh, okay." I don't know if that makes sense, but they're not really going to argue with athletics because it's like, well,
I'm looking back, so grateful. Yeah, so grateful to have had that, because it did. I didn't have the courage, right, at that point in my life, but being an athlete, like you said, was acceptable, and so my coach it came in handy time and time again to just say, no, I have to, I've got to meet this weekend. I can't come out to that party or whatever. So.
Well, and who knows, you might have found it in a different thing, but you didn't have to, so thank God. But you mentioned your church. What kind of a church did you go to, and what was the community like?
My mom became a Christian through Jehovah's Witness at our front door when I was just a baby, which is fascinating.
Goodness, that's why they keep coming around, because it works sometimes.
She didn't become.
I've ever met.
She didn't actually become a Jehovah's Witness, but so she immediately started going to the Baptist church that my aunts went to, and so we attended a Baptist church for a little while. But they caught her at a moment, right? Like a moment where she was ready and ripe to hear the story of Jesus. And so we grew up just a little bit in the Baptist church. That was a very interesting place. So beautiful and full of fiery sermons, I can remember.
Of a nice fiery pastor.
Oh, it's so fiery. I can't remember his name now. If I said it, it probably would be a very famous name. But he would carry a giant cross, across town, or I don't know how many towns or something like that, before Easter. But we weren't there very long. Yeah.
You know what? California in the 70s and 80s really was the best place on earth, because there was that all the time, right? Like, there were all these eccentric people that you knew, and it was just sort of beautiful. But so he's carrying a cross, like reenacting Holy Friday, like the video.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, very much.
It's amazing and wonderful.
And so we were there for a few years, and then we went to a non-denominational church that was a lot closer to our house, and that's really where I grew up, and it was very beautiful. They just had a graciousness and a love and a place for every person at every age. And so for me, it was a really important place to be in junior high and high school. It just continually kept the pastors there. And there were a lot of like surfer pastors who were super cool. They were really invested in the youth. They would come to find us at our schools and really cared about our lives and what the things that we were experiencing. And it kept, it gave me my own personal fire. When I had to quit gymnastics because I had so many injuries over and over and over again, I finally had to have surgery. But once that happened, I had all of this extra time, and I just remember being on my bed, I would just spend hours reading through biographies of Christians, or reading through my Bible, or just sitting there silently thinking about life. And really a lot of that was because they had set such a beautiful example for me to see that. Yeah.
That is lovely. Okay, so as you grow older, did you continue doing gymnastics like all the way through high school and into college, or how did that work out?
No, I had my ankles sort of started giving way when I was in junior high. And I think it was just the way that like my growth plates were working in my body. There was one year when I was casted 4 times, like every 3 months I injured a different ankle. I went back and forth, back and forth. And then eventually I had just torn my ligaments so many times that they were just shredded. So they had to start replacing them. So I ended up quitting gymnastics when I was 16. I was a junior in high school, and I had already been like recruited by UCLA to be on their gymnastics team. It was sort of the path that I saw for myself of continuing in gymnastics through college and then hopefully becoming a gymnastics instructor. But when I was just injured for the last time, and the doctor said, you know what, we're going to have to like freeze your ankle if you injure it after the surgery. And it was sort of a lovely time. Yeah, like they'll have to like lock it because they wouldn't be able to do anything, if I injured it again.
It wouldn't move anymore. Oh, that would be terrible. That would be
awful. So I just said, you know what, I want to be able to walk when I'm 70. And so I decided to quit, and it was just the right time for me anyway. I felt that there were new things to discover, and I was really interested in languages and wanted to pursue studying languages more. And so I made the transition fairly easily, even though it was such a jarring, strange time. But it was, I felt very much that God was leading the way, and that there was something new for me to discover. And so I didn't cry too much when that happened.
Well, it helps too that the transition was just you constantly breaking bones, right? Because it's like, you're getting the message that this is not going well. You're at least warned in advance. You can see that there's really a problem. Oh my goodness.
For sure.
You were interested in language, and you were heading off. Now, did you still go to the same school, or did you have to switch up schools as well?
No, I stayed at the same school. I finished out in the high school, and it was so interesting to finally be a high school student instead of a gymnast. So I joined the tennis team, and I wore all these braces on my on my ankles, but I traveled around in their bus with them, and I went to my first high school football game, and I went skiing for the first time. My friends took me like to the top of the mountain and said, "You're an athlete. Here, off you go." So just had all these new experiences that I couldn't have before. And it was very fun. It was super fun to just join even some of my friend sort of cliques, people that I had known for my whole life but hadn't really been able to be a part of their lives because I was always busy. It was neat, and I'm glad that happened before I went off to college, that I at least had a year and a little bit to sort of get used to a different way of being in the world, and it made for a good transition then to the next steps for me.
Well, that's wonderful, isn't it? It's lovely when you look back and you see that it all kind of lays out nicely, and that it all comes at the time when it should.
Yes.
Oh, thank God. Okay, so then where are you going to school?
I went over a series of years, of 4.5 years. I was at 7 different colleges. And mostly it's just, I won't go through the whole list, but basically I wanted a degree in French, and because of, I guess this is sort of, the shortest story that I could say, because of the dollar dropping. I was in Europe when the dollar dropped in 1980 something. I can't remember what year it was. I ended up leaving. I was in Europe for almost 3 years going to school. I was in France. I was in a little town called Aosta in Italy, where I learned to speak Italian, and I got to teach gymnastics to little Italian girls. And then I was over the border also in Switzerland. So I was all in this sort of corner of France, Switzerland, and Italy for quite a bit of time. And then I left the school in Switzerland. I went to Monterey Institute of International Studies, which is now Middlebury College in Monterey. And so that's where I finished off my degree in languages, and then I got married. So many things.
How did you meet your husband? Was he in Monterey?
It was between one of my times back and forth between Europe, and it was basically just a bunch of friends met up, and then I left again, and we wrote letters. And then when I came back, we were the only two who were from out of town. So we gathered to meet our friends, and all of the other friends. So we came in from out of town to see everybody, and then everybody else ditched us. So I was left with this guy that I didn't really know very well. And I had all sorts of things that I had to do. And so I just said, hey, if you want to come and tag along, that'd be fine. And he said, yes. So he tagged along for a week while I was moving to Monterey. And after a while, I just got tired of it. I told him to leave. But then we wrote some more letters, and we saw each other some more, and,
You were so reluctant.
And now here we are in our old age, still so cute together. Yes.
That is amazing. That's delightful.
So silly.
Oh gosh.
Mm-hmm.
So then you were out of state for a little while before you came back with your kids, right? So you actually had your kids somewhere else. Where were you? Let's go.
We were in Colorado. So we when we were first married, we lived in the Bay Area. We were in Los Gatos for 4 years, where my husband worked for Hewlett Packard. And while I was there, I studied landscape architecture, which is a really interesting phase in one of my many 8 lives. I feel like I've lived now. I think maybe I have one more life to go. I'm not sure. But one of these lives was when we were first married, and I attended Berkeley and the extension there, and studied landscape architecture, and then also worked for a big landscape architecture firm in downtown San Jose. And I loved that piece of it. I ended up not getting a degree because we moved, but all of the training that I had there, I took so many art classes, has just come in handy, right, for the work that I'm doing now with Ancient Faith Publishing, working with all the artists and illustrators, and having this knowledge, this artistic knowledge behind me, it actually helped in storytelling as well. So yeah, it's so interesting. So we were in the Bay Area for 4 years, and then we moved to Colorado, and we were in Colorado for 8 years, and that's where our first 2 children were born. And again, my husband was working for HP, and I was doing all sorts of things before I was a mom, working for my parents' bread company, driving all around Colorado in a little pickup truck with our puppy. So, and then we came to Santa Barbara in 2000.
Okay. Well, so I'm sort of stuck on something that you just said there. You said that the landscape architecture courses that you were taking helped you with art, which sort of makes sense, and storytelling. In what way?
Well, I mean, landscape architecture has a visual, sort of visual storytelling, right? In how you lay out let's say a yard, right? Where you're designing a yard. And you have these rules, right? Even the rule of third that you see in photography, you also have all these odd numbers that you work with when you're designing in for a landscape, to create this sort of better beauty in some ways. And when you apply some of those same tenets to storytelling, right? You have a play that's in 3 acts, and you have the same sort of symmetry that follows through a lot of the creative arts, and so those things, just discovering those things, and even just working, even all of the work that I did at the landscape architecture office. There was just a lot of storytelling that needed to happen in order for us even to sell a project, right? To bid a project. And so it's just funny how all these pieces kind of fit together over time. And when you start looking back, and you can see how they line up, and one helps the other, and you have these layers of knowledge. I feel now, and I'm getting pretty old now, and I think about these layers of knowledge that I have, and I'm just really grateful. And when I look in the mirror at my face, I think, oh, it's all those layers of knowledge that are there lined up. And I'm what I'm so grateful for is that I have the time and the desire still to put them to use, and to have this opportunity now to be still working and sharing all these experiences that I've had especially with kids, because that's my favorite thing.
That's wonderful. Well, I think especially, and maybe this is really common for writers, I think, but you can't you can take creative writing classes, you can take English classes, you can learn about sentence structure and things like that. But the things that are really going to feed your creativity and turn you into a great writer are going to be so varied, right? It's just all of the experiences of life. You kind of just have to throw yourself into life, and you'll find yourself kind of amassing the tools you need. I think it's so interesting to me how we do one thing, like landscape architecture, thinking that this is going to be about designing people's yards. And then we find out that, in fact, it was about a whole bunch of other things, and that it feeds all of these things we didn't even know we would want to be doing someday. So, that's really neat. Yeah. That is really, really neat. All right, well, we are going to take a very short break, and then we will be right back with Jane Meyer. Now, keep in mind, you're welcome to call in. The number is 1-855-AF-RADIO. That's 1-855-237-2346. And when we're back, we're going to ask her about Ancient Faith Kids on YouTube, and we're going to find out what that is. We'll be right back.
Everyday Orthodox with Elisa Bielatich-Davis will be back in a moment. Give Elisa and her guest a call at 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF-RADIO. Hello there. I'm Bobby Maddox, Director of Digital Media for Ancient Faith Ministries. And I'm sure you've heard by now that Ancient Faith Kids, this is our new free digital outlet for Orthodox content for children, is in the midst of a matching donation fundraising drive. We are so close to our $50,000 goal, all of which will be matched dollar for dollar through the generosity of the Renaissance Fund. Let's see. With a little less than 3 days to go, we are just dollars away from achieving a whopping $100,000 contribution to this vital and already vibrant kids ministry. Hey, would you consider becoming one of the deciding factors in our fundraising effort? You could totally be the person who finally takes us over the top. If you're interested, please go to ancientfaith.com and make your donation today. Thank you so much. We're back with Everyday Orthodox with Elisa Bielatich-Davis. Do you have a question for Elisa and today's guest? Call in now at 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF-RADIO. Here again is Elisa.
And welcome back to Everyday Orthodox. We're here tonight with Jane Meyer. And actually, we have a little disclaimer because we just ran a promo about a fundraiser that doesn't exist. So, am I right, Jane? That's not really happening, right?
You're very right. It did.
I mean, if you want to give to Ancient Faith Kids, you're always welcome to do so. But there's not, that specific fundraiser isn't going on at this time. But at any rate, all right. So, well, speaking of all of these experiences that you've had, sort of feeding into different projects that you didn't even know you would be doing. I mean, you've been writing children's books for a long time. You've been editing children's books, and really anything aimed at youth at Ancient Faith, right? How all of a sudden does that explode into videos? What happened?
Well, to be honest, it was not my my idea to begin with. It was something that came from Melinda Johnson, who's now the CEO, and just had as she does, something pop into her head, and then it just explodes all over the place in a beautiful way.
A great description. And, in a good way. It's not a bad thing.
Exactly.
It is like stunning to behold.
It's so good. So she got this idea and just started spinning it around in all sorts of different ways, and thinking about how we might be able to start creating some video content for children that would be edifying and inspiring, and would be in the spirit of the things that we've been doing, the work that we've been doing, right? Not in the spirit of today's YouTube or today's cartoon lineup. And so the effort began, and all sorts of, they're just, anytime you start something new, it just can fly in 1,000 different directions, and you're completely learning as you go, right? So there's so much trial and error, and just having to experience something in order to then change it. Or so I came on board after it had already started a little bit, and the main skills that I brought to the job is just this, the fact that I'm a very happy list maker, and I love checking things off, right? So all these years I've been managing all of these children's books and their projects, and I really do like project management. It's a skill that fits me very well. I like to be organized, even though if you looked at my desk right now, you would be stunned, but I like to be organized, and I really like finishing things. And so as a writer, right, as a creative person, that's one of those hopeful skills that you have. And so I jumped in, and we made a plan. And we went, actually, as I started working with AF Kids, and there were already some contributors who were beginning to make videos. So it was good. I was able to come in with a really broad scope and look at everything and sort of analyze all that was there, and then come up with whatever the next plan would be. So we came up with the next plan and went back to all the creators and did a bunch of revisions and kind of changed up the model a bunch. And then we were able to launch Ancient Faith Kids with our first video on January 26th of this year, which is so fun, and have been releasing, slowly trickling out content, because we don't want to run out of content. We want this to be a long-term effort. And so we're releasing content bit by bit as we go. And at the same time, we are working with new content creators, new video makers, new videographers, new creative, crazy people to really fill in this space that is a space where kids already are, right? I was in Sunday school this morning, actually, and one of the little boys in there, we were chatting about how he had a favorite YouTuber who really loved Jesus, and he was going on, and his sister was actually sitting in the circle with us and said, Gabe is on YouTube all the time. He just sits and watches short after short or whatever. I don't know all the lingo, but so we're just, it's not that we want to come in and replace. Okay, I'll just say, because this is a really sticky space, right? Like, we don't want to come in and just try and replace the other stuff that's there. I think we have a deeper goal that is more of trying to create a community, a digital community, I guess, of people who are good at this format and who might be able to spark a child, right? To put something in front of a child that would send a shock through them and change their life. You know how you hear stories of like conductors who at the age of 11, their parents dragged them to, whatever, and they heard some symphony play some certain thing, and there was something that hit at the right time in the right place, and it changed the way that they saw the world. And we really that's what we want to do for, what we want to plant these seeds where a spark might happen, where the Holy Spirit would grab it, and where a child's life could be changed, even if it's just a tiny bit. So anyway, really fun work. We have 4 content creators we're working with right now, and we have several more that we'll be launching this summer. And we have so many needs. So if there are people who are listening right now who like to make videos, or who like to paint icons, who like to, do children's choirs or know about liturgical music, just come my way. I would love to have a chat with you, because we have a huge brainstormed list of different types of video series that we feel would be really lovely to bring to the child viewer, that would support them in their journey with Christ. So,
well, I love that. I love that. Not only is it creators coming to you with an idea, but it's like, no, if you're a creator, if you've got some talent and some interest, we've got a list of ideas if you can't think of any. So come on by. I think
absolutely, yeah.
How have
you? And we have a whole team. We have a whole team of people. So it's not just the creator and then me as the project manager. We have a whole team. So you don't need to have all of the skills in order to create a video series with us, because we have a video specialist and we have a graphic designer, and we're hiring a new hire right now. And so we have this team of people here to support this effort, and to make the videos as high quality as we can, so that they're appealing, right? So that the underlying message actually happens. So sorry, what was the question that you said?
I was going to, no, but I think that's really interesting, because it is so different from books, isn't it? Because with a book, you have an author and an editor, and then of course there'll be someone designing the cover. But with a video, you really need a big team of people, because there's all kinds of equipment, and there's all kinds of knowledge, and even just knowing, what makes sense on YouTube is a skill set in its own, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
How have you found the content creators you're working with already? How did you come across them?
So I think initially there was just a big social media shout out, saying, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this. You want to come and chat with us about it?" And so the content creators who are up there right now, they were a part of that initial big announcement. And then really the other creators that I'm working with now have all been me reaching out. For the most part, I'm trying to think if they've all been me reaching out, but I think so, yes. Where I knew of, an artist who was already doing this type of work, and maybe she would be excited, or I heard about a videographer, and then I saw a short film he did, and I said, "Oh, I have this idea. What do you think?" And so, it's just been a lot of my effort of making phone calls and having Zoom meetings and trying to sell people on some of the things that I think would be super. Yeah.
No, I think it's a beautiful project, though, and I like what you're saying, that we're not just trying to replace. It's not that we're just trying to get the kids away from something bad with something neutral or something, that in fact you're trying to do something really beautiful and inspiring, and to hopefully ignite something. And so tell us, what kinds of things do you guys have so far? What's on YouTube right now?
Yeah. Before I go there, I do want to say, one of our missions is to continually have in the back of our brains that it's one thing to be on the internet, right, and to be watching these things and to have some little spark happen, but then that spark needs to be taken back to your community, right? It needs to continually like spark along the way, but into your family, into church, right? To your friends who are there, to like this idea of being an internet Christian, is not something that we want to participate in. We want all of these efforts to somehow lead into a community, into a family, into a church space, into a face-to-face interaction with somebody else. So those are conversations that we have all the time.
And that's a big deal, right? I mean, but it's a big problem, really, that there are so many people who come into Orthodoxy online and they're, whatever it is, arguing about Orthodoxy online, or even just learning. Like, it could be all positive interaction, but it's not real in the way that being in a parish and having to deal with people and their personalities and they're getting in your way and all these things that we do in the life in Christ. But how do you do that on YouTube? Like, how does one attract a person to a YouTube video that they then enjoy, that then sends them away from YouTube? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Right. No, but since we have that in mind, right? Like when we're looking at scripts, we are revising scripts. Like if you look at some of the scripts from the Olive Jar, and Presbyteric Haiti is encouraging the child, right, to be at the services, to go to the services. Like, that's where you're going to find the beauty, is going to be there in the services. It's not just knowledge, but it's these opportunities that we have to put these words in front of the child, or images in front of the child, that then reflect that being in person, being in the family, sharing with another human. Not just knowing stuff, but having it then connect human to human. And so we keep that in mind as we're looking at the words that the video creators are going to say. And even in the social media that we create, knowing that mostly the social media is targeted at the moms. And, there have been several posts that I put out there be like, you're going to go to church, right, for Holy Unction, that kind of thing, right? So just like continually having that subtle message repeated again and again. And so that's how we're trying to do it right now. And whether, God knows, is it enough? We're doing our best, right, with this medium, because it's,
well, we're learning as we go, right? I mean, a lot of this, all of it, there's a post that was just going around on social media recently talking about how there is no inherited wisdom about how to manage internet media with our kids, right? That we don't have generations of people who've said, well, we tried it this way. And, we're creating this right now, and we're learning how to do it. And we are learning how not to do it mostly, but we are learning how. And I think that's a good start. And my guess is that over the years, you will come to more realizations about things that will work and help with that. But so you mentioned the Presbytera, who is doing a show for a little while. What else do you guys have? What kind of content is on there? Is it kind of like sort of Sesame Street style? Is it for very young kids? Is it for older kids? What's it like?
So right now we just have 4 different series. So one, Presbyteric Haiti, it's sort of like, and she has she's so quirky. I love her so much. Kind of an everyday sort of, this is my funny family background sort of feeling. She's got these 2 like hand crochet. Well, she has a bunch of them, but she uses these hand crocheted octopuses as characters that she talks to. And basically she chooses a topic. Like she did one on Holy Week, that was a long, beautiful video talking about all the services. She we released one on being kind. And And so anyway, that's Presbytery Katie. We do have one that has these puppets. It's Andrew and Stephen Ritchie. They're two readers in the church. They're young and full of energy, and they're actually quite good musicians. And so they have these puppets that they talk to about a certain topic, and then there's a problem that needs to be solved, and then they write a song about this topic, and they're very clever. They're really clever, and they get stuck in my head, these songs. Oh my goodness, it's so silly. There's the one on the guardian angel is coming up soon, and that's the most recent one that's been stuck in my head. But so those two are their videos have been there have been a lot of parents who have come to us and said, our kids love Rocco. They want to watch them again and again. So super cute. And then we have two sort of drawing tutorial video series right now. One with Tara Pappas, who is a lovely artist and illustrator. She illustrated our Child's Guide to Prayer, and just has a really lovely style. And her videos are they're peaceful, and she's basically just introduces a saint and the saint's animal friend, right? Like Seraphim and the bear, or Gerasimos and the lion, Cuthbert and the otters, and teaches you to draw the animal. So those are very sweet. And then Matushka Lisa, who is a deacon's wife in Texas, I think. She does discovering God through nature and art, and so she'll bring some sort of natural theme in front of the viewer. Like we've got one coming out on clouds, and so she'll talk about clouds in all sorts of different ways, right? She'll talk about nimbus cirrus clouds, and then she'll do a little drawing tutorial at the end as well. So those are the ones that are up and running right now, along with some audiobooks that we have decided to give to the viewer for free. They're also, you can pay to listen to them on Audible, but we've made them into video, I'm not sure what they're called. They're just video files. They're audio files with a visual component to them. And so you can listen. We've got two of our books that are up on YouTube right now that you can listen to from start to finish. And we do plan on continuing that with the other chapter books that we have published over the years. And then we also have Daily Orthodox Scripture for Kids that is also available on the app and on ancientfaith.com, but we're bringing that slowly onto YouTube as well. And then we have new things that are coming, which I'm really excited about. Orthodox Pebbles. If you've probably seen their Sunday school materials up on the web. Yeah. So we're going to be partnering with her and having a video series that goes along with some of her amazing, her mission of just sharing the Orthodox faith with families, like for free, like all of this effort that goes into these lessons is just tremendous. So anyway, we're really excited. We're going to be working with her, and that will launch this fall. And like we're wanting to have a Byzantine chant. We've been talking with somebody about Byzantine chant, bringing like that would be appropriate for child learning. And we're working with an iconographer right now to create a whole iconography series, because so many kids love to sing and draw. We were at our church in Colorado, where our little mission church had like 5 children who were part of the choir and 2 grown-ups. Oh, wow. I think that happens, quite a bit, where you need bodies, and kids are up for stuff. Yeah. And so they're not necessarily even getting a lot of education. They're just in there doing it, which is the best education.
Right.
But wouldn't it be fun to be able to like add on to that, and a specialist in liturgical music could then give them 5 minutes and, tell them a little bit about what it is that they are doing. So yeah, we have.
Well, and just think how helpful that'll be to so many parishes who do have a lot of kids in the choir. And, I think especially I've had a few girls of my own who sang in the choir, and they were, they have ADHD. So they're in church, and it's hard to stand still, and it's hard to focus. And then they go and they sing, and they can focus because they're doing something. And then, of course, they're learning the hymnology, which is where all of our theology is. So glory to God. I mean, it really can't turn out to be a bad thing. I think there are so many good things to come from that. Gosh. Well, that's actually, it's funny because you were like, oh, we just have a little bit. You actually have quite a lot of content, and it sounds very good. And the Ritchie brothers, Rocco, they are coming on our show in a couple weeks. So if any of our listeners are big Rocco fans, June 11th, we're planning to have the Ritchie brothers live. So God willing, it'll all work out. They seem like delightful people. They seem so nice. So I'm looking. Oh,
absolutely. Everybody we're working with, they're all delightful people. They're all using their gifts, right? They're offering their gifts in this gorgeous, amazing way. And it's been so fun to get to know them. And like I said, to create this community behind the scenes that is then hopefully, going to be out there helping this broader community of children who are learning and listening and being inspired. So yeah, super fun.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. I love that. I like that so much. So just out of curiosity now, are you still editing children's books and writing children's books, or has this, do you have to pick one? Can you do both?
The editing has always been a part-time job for me. So I've been able to do that work while raising my children all these years. And so I would say I am working more than maybe I have in a very, very long time. And I basically have, I am two Janes. I am Jane, the editor, and I am Jane, the AF Kids video person. And they did just merge, all of our emails. So I'm really curious to see what it's going to do to my brain and whether or not something scary might come out of it. But I pretty much just divide my time very strictly between the two. And, I'll have 4 hours where I'm just doing editorial work, and then I'll have, another block of time where I'm just working on the video. And I actually keep it split on my computer screen. I've got half and half things over here, half things over there. So
that's exactly how I do it. I love that. Big chunks on my screen for different projects, and this is for school, and that's for the kids, and that's for the book, and that's how you got to do it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Technology.
So it's so far it has worked out well. We are a little bit buried right now, which is why we're hiring a new person to come and help us, because we're just starting to, in the last month, really, we've started to not fall behind, but some of those tasks that aren't needed all the time, that are sort of could be catch-up kind of stuff, are just continually staying on the list. And so it's going to be really nice to kind of have another pair of hands on deck and help us get back to that sort of good workflow space. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, though. That's wonderful. And so is it that you sort of had a part-time job with the editing, and you were raising your kids, and now the kids are older, so now you've just taken on another part-time job? Is that
exactly? It's exactly right. Well, and you know what? During the pandemic, so many things happened, right, to all sorts of people during the pandemic. And for me, it was a beautiful realization that, one, I am such I am so made to be a hermit. Like, I was so happy during lockdown. My husband, we discovered that was not fun for him. And so he did all of the shopping. He did anything where he had to go out in the community. But I just stayed here behind. And at that time, Elisa, I was working on 101 Orthodox Saints. Have you seen that book?
Oh, I have. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's beautiful.
So that was just a huge gift to me. And I worked on that pretty much the entire lockdown time. Wow. And what was so lovely about that is that, we had a world that was pretty much freaking out in a lot of different ways. And at the same time, I'm reading these stories of these people who had lived these incredibly beautiful, some so difficult lives, and so many of them who had died as martyrs, and they had been through plagues and through coups and, through all sorts of things. And it just, on a daily basis, sitting down in front of my computer, just put everything into perspective and put everything under this umbrella of Christ. And it was so lovely. So I, during the pandemic, I worked more than I really ever had. And it sort of prepped me for being able to take on this other job, because I was that project was so big that it was necessary that I was working a lot of hours in order to make that happen. And so it just sort of merged and shifted to this new job where I just took on a few more hours after that. And so far it's worked out well. And we're now doing 102 Saints.
I was going to ask, is there going to be I bet it's I imagine though, it's a lot of research, because you found all kinds of data on saints that, a lot of times we read the the prologue of Orid or whatever, where you get the little summary of a saint's life. And some of them are very long and colorful and interesting. And a lot of them are like, well, he came from a good family and he was martyred in 810. Like, wait a minute, wait a minute, where's that story? And you dug up so much, you found so much. So I look forward to seeing the next one. So it'll be 102 saints next time?
We'll have 102, yeah. So awesome. The authors have done Sarah Wright and Alexander Schmalzbach are the two authors, and so they do all of the initial research, but then as the editor, I come behind and I do all the research again to make sure that all of everything is correct. And then because I then load up all of the visuals and think of all the other ways that you're going to highlight them, then there's all sorts of side research that's done there too. So the reasons the book come out well is that there are a lot of people who are spending a lot of time and energy and trying to make it the very best and the most accurate, right, that it can be. So it's so much fun. All these stories are just, they're tremendous, and they really are, for me, life-changing to be able to be inside of these stories. And then I bring them to my dinner table and I tell my family, do you know about,
I love that. And, Christina Wenger and I will do saint stories on tending the garden of our hearts. And it's the same. When you can immerse yourself in these stories, you feel so much better about your own world, whether it's the pandemic or anything. Right? Like, it's just like, okay, the world has been difficult and God has been with us, and he continues to be. It's so inspiring. Well, Jane, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has just been a delight.
Thank you. So lovely to talk with you, Elisa.
Oh, it was really nice. And the Ancient Faith Kids on YouTube is just, what a treasure, what a blessing. So all of you out there with young kids, check it out. Take a look and see.
And pray for us, please, if you would. That more than anything, we would love your prayers. That, like what Elisa said, right? We're forging new ground, and we're wanting to humbly walk into this space. And so your prayers are appreciated for sure.
Oh, amen. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jane. And thank you to our audience for joining us. Come on back next week, and we'll meet another Everyday Orthodox Christian.
Okay.